I can't believe it, but my rear view mirror fell off again. First time it hits 90 and boom, falls right off. And it's just this vehicle. This is the only one, but it falls off once, twice, 3 times a year. And before you say, well, it's because you're doing something. Well, I mean, okay, I might be, but it fell off. In other words, I got it. It was on. I didn't put it up myself, and it fell off. And then it's fallen off every time that I've replaced it. Crazy and frustrating. All right, first thing you want to do is mark the location that you're going to mount it. Now, normally, because I know you're looking at this going, that's wrong. Normally, yeah, you'd put the tape right where the old spot was. However, this spot is apparently cursed. So I'm going to put it next to the old spot and see if that does anything. Of course, I know you're not supposed to change more than one variable, and I'm changing location and adhesive, so I'm changing 2. But it is what it is. So scrape off the old glue and cut your tint while you're doing that. You can see the adhesive was staying on the glass, so it seems that the weak link is the button, not the glass. I don't know if this is how they always are or just the problem I'm having, but anyway, so I'm not going to be too worried about the glass other than the scraping and cleaning up with some alcohol, some lacquer thinner, paint prep, maybe all of the above. Now some good old isopropyl alcohol. One product that never seems to let you down. And I'm doing this one first so it'll have plenty of time to dry while I'm working on the mirror button. Now the forward mirror button is always a pain to get out. I'm sure there's a trick that I just don't know, so if you know what the trick is, let me know. Otherwise I always just kind of have to wedge it out of here. So I'm going to take a close look at this and see if I can somehow disconnect this without totally destroying this mirror. I know some of you have said that my problem is that I've got the mirror with the camera mirror on it, but the reason I don't think that's the problem is I have that same setup in every vehicle, and this is the only one that's doing it. It's just the 2010 that's having the problems falling off. And this is a new button, if I recall, because I thought, well, maybe there was something weird defective about the old button. So I put a totally new one on, and it lasted about a year, so I mean it did better, but it still fell off. So we gotta scrape the old glue off. It's funny, it still has a little tackiness to it. And I know they say if you miss any and leave the old glue on that it won't stick, which seems kind of ridiculous, but keep scraping until nothing's coming off. And you want to clean up the edges too, if there's any glue on the edges. This one looks fairly clean. Grabbed a little 80 grit, and what I'm hoping to do is make some scuff marks in the actual metal such that the glue can kind of bond into there and hopefully attach better. And some good scratches on there for it to grab.
yes, I am purposely trying to create a little bit of texture to this. And you can see there's a little bit of texture there. Clean this one with the isopropyl alcohol, and I'll try to keep my greasy fingers off of it. I'll probably put gloves on and clean it one more time before I actually rock and roll here. So I think these are basically the same product here. This is what I've been using. I've tried, I think, all 3 brands of these rearview mirror adhesives, and they have worked for, you know, some of them almost immediately fell off, and I think the longest any of them lasts is about 12 months. So I saw a guy in Houston use that, and he said that it worked better, and so I'm going to give it a try. It can't be any worse than what I've had as far as bad luck. He was pointing out this one can withstand 180-degree temperatures, which in Texas, we probably do hit that level, unfortunately. Obviously not the outside temperature is not 180, but the inside of the vehicle, windshield, that sort of thing probably does get up, you know, close to that at least. So I'm going to tell you one tip that he didn't mention that I will mention to you. He started dispensing the product, and he was like, oh, the one side wasn't coming out, so he was trying to rig it up to get enough. I would suggest holding it over a trash can and squirting until they're both coming out, because it seems like inevitably all of the products like this, one side has an air bubble in it, and so when you squeeze you don't get an even disbursement of product. So that's my little tip on these. I guess that's like the safety catch. There we go. I guess you can use that as your mixing spoon. Okay, so I'm going to break this off. I'm going to hold it over the trash, and I'm going to expel until both sides are coming out evenly. Gloved cleaning. Alright, so it's prepped with the painter's tape there, so that as soon as I stick that in the car, I can start taping it so it won't fall down. Go ahead and break this off, and like I said, squeeze out some to get the air bubbles out, get it flowing evenly, and then I'm going to go ahead and dispense it directly on there. It doesn't need a whole lot. And remember, this break off piece is also the cap when you're done. And as soon as I opened that up, sure enough, the clear was coming out. The yellow side took a minute to come out, but it's ready to go. Clean that off, pull back on the plunger a bit. Keep an air gap there, hopefully, so the stuff doesn't harden on the tip there. And hopefully this is ready to be reused. All right, now I'm going to do this off camera so that I can have the camera ready for in the car, but I'm going to stir these together with this little stirring tool and then transfer it to the car. But I don't want to stir it and then have to move the camera, so we're going to be ready to rock and roll. All right, she is stirred up, and remember, wider side on the bottom again, and give it a little smush on the glass, a little movement. And I'm even going to go get another piece of tape and cover that up. Just, I don't want it to have any excuses to fail me. And that feels like it's solid on the glass. I'll let that cure for a full 24 hours. I may go a little bit longer before I mount that mirror on there, since I've had so many issues with them falling. One more thing to keep in mind. These adhesives generally do not do well. In fact, a lot of them say to do it between 50 and like 70, 75 degrees. So I've got the AC set at 70 in here right now. It's about, I think, 71, 72 in here right now. So it should work fine. But this is definitely not something that you want to do outside on a hot day. If you did, you can try running the AC in the car and getting it as cold as possible, and even run like a hose on the outside of the glass to try to keep it cooler or whatever. But then again, that may be part of the failures I've had too, is even though I'm doing that, since Texas is rarely below 75, it never falls off in the wintertime. Otherwise it'd be a little bit easier to do. But anyway, so cross your fingers and let's hope that this is a good bond, a good product, and not a waste of my time. If it does fall off, I'll go back to using the rear view mirror adhesive and we'll try it again. Unfortunately, it's the middle of April and it's only going to get hotter as the days and weeks go by. All right, it has been, I believe, 25 hours. So we will peel this off. I'll be a little more gentle on this one because it's directly taped to that. Of course, I guess if the painter's tape peels it off, the mirror will definitely knock it down, but that looks like that's on there at least as well as all the other times. Yeah. So the two tests come in. One, when you mount the mirror to that, obviously that's the first chance it has to fall down, which I think I did a video where I showed that. Like I literally had it mounted and went clunk and took it right off. And then obviously the next test, the bigger test, is parking this thing in the Texas sun and seeing if it just melts itself off of there or not. What I've been doing to try to get them on is something like this. And of course that only goes that far because now you're pushing against the bottom of that, but it's at least on where it doesn't just wobble off immediately. But as far as actually getting it to totally click down, I don't know how much force it needs, but I don't want to break the window or knock this tab off trying to get that snapped on, so that's going to have to do it for now. And you know, at least I'm pulling on this probably 5 or 10 pounds of force and it's not budging, so that's a good sign. All right, so past the first test, which is putting this on the bracket and not knocking the bracket down. The next one will have to wait till I get this thing in the sunlight.